Hi, I'm Brien Lundin, and I'm here with a backstage interview for the Metals Investor Forum. And in this interview, we're focusing on one of the companies I featured in my segment, Group 10 Metals. This is a company that has been recommended for a while in Gold Newsletter, has done very well by our readers in that time frame, but has some very exciting days ahead of it, as you'll see. Michael Rowley is the president and CEO of Group 10 Metals, and he'll be giving the story to us or expanding on the story. But Michael, what's interesting to me is that the great South African platinum mines and mining companies are legendary. A lot of people don't realize that analog for the Bushveld really is duplicated to a great extent in the U.S. in Montana, and of this really major, very large scale mineralized trend, one major company has essentially half of it, and the other half somehow ended up in the hands of an upstart junior mining company called Group 10 Metals. Can you kind of tell us what you have and how you came about to have this really multi-kilometer long mineralized trend that seems to be very important, will be very important on the world stage?
Thank you. I'd be glad to. It is rare for a junior to share a district like this with a $12 billion major miner, Sibanye. Essentially, it was timing. We were in the right place at the right time with the right team. And a local who had worked on that ground in the past reached out to us with this opportunity, and we were in a place to act on it. So based on that, we've been able to tie up 54 square kilometers, about half of the district. The district, of course, the Stillwater Igneous Complex, is some of the best rocks in the world, full stop, for these minerals, these commodities. Highest grade palladium platinum mines in the world now being mined by our neighbors to the north. And as you mentioned, that the parallels are very direct with the Bushveld of South Africa. They're well known to be very similar layered magmatic systems. It's perhaps interesting to note that the Stillwater mines next door to us were found by the direct application of that parallel. The productive Merensky Reef of the Bushveld complex, they went looking in the exact same relative location in that layer stratigraphy in Montana in the 1970s when America needed platinum for catalytic converters. And they found it, and it was there, and by 1986 they had those first mines. What's interesting is that South Africa continued ahead with these massive mines in the lower portion of the layered system and the Platte Reef district, Anglo-Americans Mogalakwena mine, starting about 1993. And that never carried over to Montana, even though it was documented in academic papers and such. And even though AMAX did a lot of drilling in the basal zone at Stillwater, returning long lengths of copper and nickel sulfides, they weren't included in the PGEs, and they didn't have that Platte Reef model in mind. It was actually 20 years before that model. So we're the first to systematically bring this together. So the targets are tens of millions of ounces, big nickel copper sulfide deposits, rich in platinum group elements and gold and cobalt in our case as well. In Montana, in a district that already has 3 mines and a smelter. It's been a wonderful few years that we've been on this project. We've done bigger programs each year, and we're looking forward to even bigger things this year.
You know, I want to talk to you a little bit about how you're taking, as a smaller company, in this huge project and parceling it out and establishing your priorities. But stepping back a bit, you know, I've been recommending to Gold Newsletter readers platinum group or platinum plays because there's not that many of them. And people kind of forget that in this age of electrification of vehicles, that there's still an awful lot of internal combustion engines out there which rely on platinum, and it's still actually a growing market. And there are severe supply, not so much shortages, but constraints around the world that you just simply can't keep up with demand. For this reason, the big platinum mining companies are very aggressive, very bullish on the platinum price, and very aggressive in looking for new deposits. And I think there's a window of opportunity there for junior platinum companies to explorers to develop resources and get sold to majors over the next 2 or 3 years. And you seem uniquely positioned for that. Conversely, there is this electrification of vehicles, this EV revolution, and there are battery metals that I'm also recommending a number of companies to our readers very successfully. A lot of these companies have done very well. And there's a tremendous future, a growing bull market in that area. Group 10, interestingly, combines both of those real mega trends in the resources in one company. Can you talk a bit about how that works and how your metals mix really addresses both of those markets?
It's a really good position to be in. As you said, basically all of our the commodities in our commodity basket are in a bull market or heading to a bull. And that's a rare position to be in. These are very rare systems in the world to have this mix of commodities. It happens in the Platte Reef, but if you look at some of our comparables in North America, they've got the nickel, but they don't have PGEs, or they've got the PGEs, sometimes copper, but no nickel. We've got a very even basket of all of them, and we own it 100% as well. There's a further perhaps distinction, but broadly across that Platte Reef basket, to use Robert Friedland's term at Stillwater, we're perhaps a third palladium, a third nickel, and a third the others. Platinum, rhodium, which is getting to be increasingly significant, copper, gold, and cobalt. And that's a really good basket to have these days. We've also got pockets that are more defined. There's a drill-defined high-grade gold area at Stillwater as well. But in that broad basket, we're doing very well in terms of our target commodities. And the resources that we're working on now will reflect that. They're very well balanced, and the basket value is increasing very nicely on that commodities.
Yeah, and you touched on your goals here in building some resources. It's a huge project. It is a challenge for a company, any junior company, especially, to have a project that has so many different target areas. What do you do next? What do you do first? How do you prioritize it? It's a whole lot better than having no target areas, but it's still a challenge. And you're taking this massive project up and focusing on some areas to bring resources to the market initially?
Yeah, so backing up to our systematic approach, we arrived at 14 target areas. They're all multi-kilometer in size. 6 of those are the reef-type targets like our neighbors and like the traditional bushveld mines. 8 of those are the Platte Reef one that we're talking about, and they show the right size and properties for Platte Reef systems, right setting geologically. 3 of those are advanced enough based on the historic drilling plus our drilling in the past 2 years to move across the finish line as resources. And that's a priority for this year. So once we get the 2020 drill results in, get them into the model, that's a top priority. And I don't think it'll take us till the end of the year to do that. They're well underway now. They're not necessarily the biggest and best resources at the project. The IP survey that we did last year lit things up beautifully to an 800-meter depth with 3D clarity. There's an enormous potential to grow what we've got. We look forward to getting those images out as well. But yeah, the strategy is to revalue the company around those 3 most advanced areas and get on to bigger programs from there. We have 2 more areas of drill-defined mineralization after that, and then we've got that broader 8 areas in total to work on.
Well, the drill results that I've seen so far have been nothing short of exceptional. Can you characterize what you found so far and maybe give us an idea of how the exploration is going to go for this year?
Sure. Yeah, we've done basically programs that were twice as big each successive year for 4 years in a row now. So this year, I think it would be a double, maybe even a triple on last year. We're permitted on 50 drill pads. We're well funded, $3 million at the bank and $11 million of in-the-money warrants and options. And then we've got some really good conversations underway as well. So this year looks really good. The IP survey did a marvelous job of lighting up the targets, and the core looked really good from the 2020 drill program. Results aren't out on that yet. They're coming. These full suite assays take time, unfortunately, especially with rhodium, which seems to be the slowest assay of all. But it's there as a co-product and it's significant, so we want to include it. We drilled in 2019 and we got some really good Platte Reef style intervals, 0.35 nickel, 0.2 copper. We're getting cobalt that they don't get in the Bushveld. Typically it's sort of 0.01, 0.02%. That's significant. And then a gram or two of PGEs on top of that as well. So, and that's in sort of a 27-meter sweet spot within a broader interval of hundreds of meters that are running 1 or 2 grams platinum equivalent. I think if those were gold intercepts, we would already be a dollar something stock. The market is still figuring out what this Platreef model means, I think.
Yeah, and with that multi-metal mix, your story becomes a bit more complicated to explain, but it provides an opportunity for investors to get in before that kind of broad consensus develops. You've got the mineralization there, you're building a resource, and I can tell from those grades that the metal value, the rock value is quite significant. And that's something I think the market's going to realize over the course of this year. Michael, thank you so much for joining us today. Very exciting story. You've got the world is your oyster, one of the world's largest or most impressive and exciting multi-metal PGM districts. You own essentially half of it, and really fun days ahead for you and for Group 10 shareholders. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you. Pleasure as always. Cheers.